a variety of characters that are sort of navigating the art world and questioning the efficacy of art. The story is called Starfish Disintegrating into Mush. It was a hot and sticky kind of overcast day, and we were walking along the lakeside speculating about the end of art. Times were changing, and while Otto still believed that art could affect change, that it was relevant and provocative and generous and fair, I was more jaded. I simply wanted to be reborn. Up ahead, a defiant seagull was obstructing our path, but we did our best not to worry too much about the future. Wouldn't it be nice, I was saying, to put an end to all of this nonsense? Otto was a sweet guy, but really, he was just a kid. A 22-year-old slab of yellow plasticine, busy fashioning himself in the shape of an artist. I say yellow because he had an aura of extreme optimism and was unfaltering in his self-esteem, even while he visibly struggled as an artist to make anything of worth. I say yellow, but in fact, he wore mostly black. Today, a black turtleneck and a long black cape, tall black socks and metallic runners. A thin gold chain with the letter O swung enthusiastically from his left earlobe. Yellow, I learned later, meant also cowardice, deceit. It won't end gently, he said. If we aren't proactive, we will turn into mush. And it was true. All down the coast, starfish were disintegrating. Some kind of ocean-borne disease, we were told on public radio. But even for the scientists, it was a mystery. Starfish, especially the purple ones, first lost their arms, then became mushier and mushier until all that remained just washed away. We took it as a sign that something very bad was coming. We agreed it was just a matter of time. Come on, seagull, I said, move along. The seagull's eyes were wet and black like the slippery seeds of a papaya, things I always thought looked quite beetle-like, always suspected were quite alive. The bird took a few steps towards me, which I interpreted as a challenge. I hissed, stood my ground. God, I thought, I'm so afraid. I really need to work on this. After all, there were whole library aisles devoted to topics like fear, anthropomorphism, interspecies communication. Another moment passed, and the seagull moved diagonally towards a blade of grass. I always knew I had some kind of superpower, Otto said. We spent the afternoon discussing the meaning of art and life. We disagreed on almost everything, including 1. Insiders, outsiders. There were people who knew a lot about art and people who knew nothing at all. People who called themselves artists and lived in cities, in deserts, in huts, in cars. There were people who designed logos and people who laid brick and people who made modernist paintings or produced fringe theater or ceramic fruit bowls. I thought about the similarities between plumbers, poets, and CEOs, unclogging, streamlining, or between veterinarians and sculptors, soothing things with one's hands. I tried to figure out what it was that made me, me, and them, and what boundaries did anyways to a thing like a person or their perceptions of themselves. Thinking about it made me recognize something shameful in my own craft too, an impulse to draw borders, to include and exclude. It was like that guy, the 40-year-old upstairs roommate who arrived with 2 plates of homemade focaccia to the party where he knew no one, and later ran excitedly mid-conversation to retrieve from his apartment the miniature replica of the Colosseum he'd built with corks. How much I admired his childish boldness, that rare form of oblivion. So why then did he make me feel so embarrassed? Otto revealed to me once, after we'd shared a few beers, how he often struggled with the notion of participation, how much he should give in order to receive. He was kind of an interesting case, someone charismatic on the outside, but also someone who seemed to me secretly afraid, tormented by a deep feeling of inadequacy, the struggle to make anything of worth. His father was a playful artist, an activist who once famously lowered a papier-mâché ladder over the east side of the Berlin Wall, while Otto spent his years dabbling in a too serious photography, documenting without irony the smooth surfaces of modernist buildings or the mundane textures of suburban life. Resurfacing after 4 years of conceptual art education, Otto no longer had a clear vision of the person he was or the artist he wanted to be. For the first time in his life, he admitted to me, he began to doubt the originality of his seeing. To comfort him, I told him a made-up parable about a whale that learned to swallow things for their own protection. On 3 separate occasions, the whale swallowed an abandoned canoe, a rotting coconut, and even a young suicidal artist who just jumped off a bridge. And after allowing each of them a brief period of reflection, would then spit them all out on the beach to give them their big second chance. What the whale couldn't have known, though, was that in his stomach he held a sort of magic mucus, one that made lost things feel again and want to make art, so that more than save the material lives of these things, he was saving their sense of purpose, too. Eventually, the canoe was repainted a proud fire engine red, and the coconut became the subject of an expensive still life painting that sold for many millions of dollars in a private auction. Curiously, though, the young man wanted no part in the art world. Having always felt like an outsider, he'd finally seen what it was like to be on the inside of something, even the stomach of a whale, and hightailed it out of there on a stolen motorcycle. Thank you.